Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Youturn. We have got several guests today. I'm really excited to get to know them better and about their program. And so, Hamilton, you guys go way back. Why don't you introduce our guest today? And then I'm going to go with a little rapid fire question for Chief Hedrick.
All right, cool. So welcome, everybody. I am very excited to announce that we have the Reentry team, for a lack of a better word, at Pinal County, Arizona, on the podcast with us today. Chief Matt Hedrick, who basically runs everything having to do with corrections at Pinal, is he's the handsome guy with the head of hair just like mine. He's a good friend of mine, great human being. We've spent a lot of time together over the last couple of years. Pinal is, Matt, are you guys a border? You guys are on the border, or you run up close to it?
We're considered a border county just because of the connection through a Indian community, but we're not on the border.
Right, but a lot of people that cross the border come up to Maricopa through your county, right?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, and you know they care deeply about getting people that happen to end up in the Pinal County Jail back into society, re-entered into society, want to reduce recidivism. And so Chief Hedrick and I met a couple of years ago along with the Sheriff Mark Lamb and have become good friends, and we have started working together. And so he's brought his team on. Matt, do you want to introduce everybody?
I will. I have Teresa Fuller, who's our reentry director. Probably 20 years experience in justice involved individuals. I have Sarah Ballister, who she is our justice service officer, along with Yvonne Hernandez, who are both of them. And they both come with different tool belts into the position. Sarah was one of our civilian employees inside the jail, but she touched every place in there. And probably her biggest contribution was building open lines of communications with judges throughout the state for transportation of inmates, for court dates, different things like that. She's a trainer. She was an incredible trainer. She was Civilian of the Year probably multiple times since I've been here. Yvonne comes to us probably one of the most educated detention officers we've ever known. And she, and it's from kind of a finance background, which I absolutely love, because that type of thinking requires someone to have a broader scope of what needs to happen in developing programs. And she also has kind of this, how would you say it? Kind of Wonder Woman type mojo going on when she gets on, when she's in front of people, especially inmates. She has a command presence that reinforces the fact that order and kind of being able to communicate at every level with every demographic.
That's awesome. So, Yvonne, we're going to start calling you Linda Carter, although you guys aren't old enough to understand who Linda Carter is, probably, right? She was the original Wonder Woman. So, nice to meet all you guys. One of the things we always like to start with is Liz likes to ask a couple of rapid fire questions. So, Chief, we'll ask them to you, but Yvonne, Sarah, and Teresa, if you guys want to play along, you can do that as well. So, Liz, fire away.
All right. First question, Chief, what did you want to be when you grew up? When I grew up,
I wanted to be a football player.
Well, you could still do that. You've got the.
No, I couldn't still do it, but there was a time where I could do it. I played college football, and but then I got smitten. So I grew up when I got smitten by my wife. So
there you go.
Yeah. Does anybody else want to answer?
I wanted to be a pediatric nurse.
Oh, nice. Sarah?
Yeah. That's funny. I wanted to be a pediatric oncologist.
Oh, wow. And Teresa?
I was going to say Teresa is about the only one that came close.
Yeah.
Pediatric, definitely not in a prison system, but All right. So, and then this one I just came up with just because lately everyone in the world has tattoos, which I think is great. So if you have a tattoo, what is your first one and what does it mean to you?
I don't have tattoos.
All right, Matt, you're out. Anybody else?
I got none.
Nope.
Too indecisive.
Yvonne,
I do.
what are you free to share what your first one was and what the meaning is?
No, it's I got that when I was in New Mexico. I went out there. I interviewed for a lieutenant spot over the phone, and I was able to get it for the marshals out there. And I was out there by myself, and it was a wonderful place. So it's a tattoo. It's in Latin. It says, "I came, I saw, and I loved."
Oh, I
my
love it.
mama.
I love that.
Me too.
And that was the
I got my first tattoo and only tattoo when I was drunk as hell when I was 19 years of age in college, and then I spent a shitload of money and a lot of laser surgery to get it off. So
What was it? A beer can?
no, it was bad, dude. I can't even talk about
You know, I haven't. We spent that much money to get it off.
it.
I was gonna say.
It was just bad. All right, let's jump right in. So,
Wait, Teresa, do you want?
Teresa,
Do
you want to
have
answer? Okay.
Wait, y'all are boring. Okay, let's move on.
All right, let's jump in. Chief, I know the answer because I've talked to you about this a lot, but I want you to share with our viewers, why is reentry so important to you?
Well, it starts with just kindness and care and love for humanity. Like really, and like everybody on this podcast, we're touched by people who are flawed. Well, our own personal selves were flawed, but we've had people who are justice involved that have been in jail, have been in prison, and we always, when you think about how would you feel if this was your family, then it puts you in a place to where we've really got to do this right. If this was Teresa's brother, how do I want him to return the best version of himself that he's seen? And that's really how we look at it. And we look at it from the perspective that everybody in my jail, I would say 99% of them are innocent until proven guilty. Like they're awaiting trial. So
Right.
every one of them have the ability to be our neighbor.
Yep.
And I was taught from a young boy, how do we treat our neighbors? So that's why it's so important to me and to my staff.
No, agreed. Yvonne, Sarah, and Teresa, when you talk, I don't know if you can get a little bit closer to the microphone because we had a hard time hearing you. But Yvonne, Sarah, Teresa, any of you guys want to add anything to that?
Part of what makes me so passionate about this work is I do have multiple family members that were just as involved. So I've watched them go through the system, and I wish they would have had some of the resources that we're providing now, because I think they could have been much more successful in things like sobriety or not having recidivism. So,
Right.
and the other thing is, like, as we've gotten into this program and as we're talking to people, we're finding so much is the same. You have a lot that you can relate to people on. These are your neighbors. These are people who could be in your life. And at the end of the day, we're all people, and we all deserve a chance to have a better life and to have the tools that are going to help us be successful.
No, agree. That's great. Yvonne, Teresa, anything from you guys? Yeah. No, that's great. And Yvonne, how about you?
As a former officer, seeing the people come back over and over and not having nothing to give them, to look out for when they leave. Now I'm able to do that, and hoping we can cut back on the people coming back.
Yeah, what I hear you guys saying, and Chief, I know you know this about Youturn. What we always say about our program is we treat people as human beings first, and that's what I loved about you when I first met you. Is I was actually kind of shocked, to be honest with you, because you were so empathetic to people, and I know you had some challenges at first. You did. I think I remember you telling me at first you were like, "Argh," and then you started feeling that empathy that you've had from when you were a young boy, and like really realizing these people are humans just like me, that we're all flawed people. So I love that you think about it the same way.
Yeah, it was when I first started as chief, our goal was, green bologna sandwiches and pink underwear. And, that's how we're going to teach them to not come back to jail. We'll make it so miserable for them.
Right.
And then I come in and I hear their stories.
Yeah.
And I would sit in my office and cry. Like, they already have a hard life. Like, I don't even have the capacity to show them what a hard life is. Green bologna sandwiches, they'll be happy for that. So that wasn't gonna do the trick. But as a father, just as my grassroots as a father and as husband, knowing that this is someone's child, like, we've got to do more. We've got to do more, and we've got to give them our heart. We got to open our heart. Stop doing the same old thing in corrections that's been done for hundreds of years and nothing's ever changed. We've got to show love and kindness. Now, there are times where we have to, have uses of force to gain compliance. And, and we do that. And I support my staff in that. But in the end, we're not going to heal our communities by just business as usual.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because we say the same thing about behavioral health. It's when you were talking about we've done it this way for so many years, and look at the results we're getting. We've treated behavioral health the same way for 70 years. And the reason we created Youturn Health is because I just got pissed off that every year the suicide numbers went up, the cases of drug overdoses went up, people are dying. It's getting worse and worse and worse. So we have to do things differently. Sarah, you mentioned something that you see a lot of the same thing. What are and anyone can answer this, what are the biggest things that you see that tend to lead people right back to where they left from? Like what is the biggest issue with reentry for the offenders that are getting out? Like what are their challenges that lead them right back to where they came from?
Simple as having something like an ID or a phone. Having the resources to meet the needs of things like your probation.
Right.
A lot of people don't have transportation. A lot of people don't have somewhere to live. And so when they're getting out, they may have the only place they can stay is with someone else who also has a substance abuse issue. But even something as simple as having an ID, you can't do anything without an ID. So getting that connectivity for them, or having a phone, everything's online now. And so even if you're wanting to get into certain things or find certain resources, you're starting at a negative. You're starting with less resources than the rest of us would have. If I wanted to go find something, I'd be able to find it really easily, but I have the resources in place where I could look for something like that. And these people don't. We had an anonymous survey that we had filled out for people, and over 60% didn't have an ID.
So what do you do to help them, Sarah, today?
So we make those connections and we help them. So we had a few weeks ago, we had someone who needed an ID. We were able to get them set up with that, and we got them their paper copy, made sure that it had somewhere to go. Things like cell phones, we just got a connection a few weeks ago. And so now we're going to start trying to get that connectivity for people so that they're on a better foot when they leave.
Chief, I got a contact for you that is doing that as well. They just started doing it in Rikers Island. They're giving them a phone that you can pre-program, that like you could put the Youturn Health platform on there, so when they get out, they have it. And in addition to that, it comes with 2 years of free hotspot service. So and think about this. So you come home, but your kid can't do his homework because you don't have internet in the house. You can use your phone as a hotspot. So now you have internet. So I'll hook you up with them. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yvonne, Teresa, Matt, what else? What are you seeing as the biggest challenges when people get out?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with an anchor. Like they leave this place as like this boat, and the boat can be pretty small based on their self-esteem. And if they don't have a harbor or a way to anchor that themselves to something positive, like Sarah said, they don't have to go back to a house that has substance abuse problems or have weapons and all these different things that now they can get violated for because they're around weapons, because they have a felony on their record. All these things with Youturn Health and some of our other partners and providers, they literally have a tangible anchor or even a harbor now.
Yeah.
A little slip that they can just go into and feel supported positively. And it's amazing to see their countenance on their faces change when they hear that they have tangible hope. Not like, hey, if you get out, just give me a call if you're running into a bad stream. No, you have someone who's going to be communicating with you and helping you get to the next therapy session, to get to your probation officer, to call and say, hey, I'm struggling. I'm around these guys and they're out there drinking. And we have someone like Youturn Health. Bro, you need to leave.
Yeah.
You need to leave right now. And this is where I want you to go.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to set it up for you. That means the world to them.
Yeah, I like your analogy. I think it was Teresa. Go ahead, Liz. Go ahead.
No. I just want to ask how long we keep in touch with these men and women after they leave.
So we stay with them for up to a year.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, Chief, I love your analogy because I think it was Teresa said, we have all of these programs out there that have already been paid for, housing programs, medication assisted treatment programs out in the community. We have therapists, we have all transportation, all of these different things, but there's no one navigating that. So when I get out of the Pinal County Jail without Youturn Health, or without you guys, I just basically have to figure out, all right, how do I get my license reinstated? My wife is pissed off at me because I've been in jail for 6 months. How do I bridge that gap? Oh, by the way, I'm on Suboxone. I need to go get that. I don't know how I could figure out how to do that. And I haven't been in jail. So it's interesting the way that you talked about that, because that's exactly what we believe we're there for. Go ahead.
So the funny thing is, we've had Heritage Health, this partnership in Youturn for a while, and we just drug our feet with it. It was built for the inmates, but I didn't have a mechanism to use it how it's supposed to be used.
Right.
And it was meant for the employees and their families if they're having problems mentally and physically. But it wasn't until Reentry came in that we actually had boots on the ground and making sure they understand the how useful this will be in your life. And I just think that's what I think is great is you can have something in your back pocket and didn't even know the value of it.
Right.
And then we pull it out at the right time, and the value, you can't place the value on it.
No.
How much is a human life worth?
Yeah. Teresa, you were going to say something.
Social support, because I think that's so important. When we look at criminogenic needs, the factors that contribute to criminal behavior, that we as community supervision staff or people that are working with justice involved individuals can change, right? You have those top 4 that everybody focuses on, where we know we can make the most amount of difference. And number 3 and 4 is who they have for positive social support, And are they hanging around negative associates, right? So that is significant towards helping people in recovery, as well as people stay out of criminal behavior. And what I want to point out, the reason I think Youturn help is so critical to that process is, so, Sarah already talked about, we did this survey with individuals that are currently incarcerated in the jail. And when we're going in and we're talking to them, a lot of them have no social support whatsoever. They've pushed away all of their loved ones. They're tired. They're not willing to help them. And so they really have nobody except this nuclear of negative influences that they've been hanging around with that they can't seem to break themselves from. And when we did the survey, 62% of these individuals felt that they would benefit from peer support.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah. The other thing, they touched on transportation. So just to explain to you, for those of you out there that have never been to Pinal County, we're the size of Connecticut, right? So we have a huge landmass to cover. When we talk about transportation, there's only one source of transportation in Pinal County. It's called the CART. It goes to half of the county and it runs from 8:15 a.m. to 5:15 p.m. So people that are released in between those times or after those times don't have transportation, and people that are going to the other side of the county do not have transportation to get back. So transportation is a huge issue for us. And when we did the survey, the areas that they indicated that they wanted the most amount of help were one, connectivity to identification, housing, employment, and transportation, as well as phone. So all those social determinants of health that we know are so important are the areas that they're rating the highest area of need. The other thing I will add is that when we're talking to these individuals, some things that I didn't even think about, right? Like, as somebody who knows what these barriers are, is when they're incarcerated, guess what's not getting paid? Their phone bill.
Yeah.
So even when they are released, it's highly likely that they're not going to have access to a phone, and they're not going to be able to catch up on that bill because they have no ID. They have no way to get a stable job without an ID or get a check to pay that bill. So those barriers just keep piling up on each other. Anyway.
Wow. That's, these are things that all of our listeners probably don't even stop and think about. Liz, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
No, not yet.
Yeah. What's that?
Not yet. A lot of good information, though.
No, it's crazy. So, Teresa, I know you've been in place for a while now, and that's really been the catapult to us really rolling out this reentry program. Do you guys have any good stories that you can share on things that have happened?
Yes, and I'll share mine, but I want Sarah to share hers, because I was in with a young man she was working with. Do you remember this, Sarah? When he walked out, what did he say?
He told me he had chills. And that was after he did his introduction with his Youturn peer support person. But he was walking out, and it was like his whole demeanor was different. His shoulders were rolled back. He looked like he was ready to conquer anything. And he just turned and he was like, I've got chills. Just from awesome. Having that connection, because he was like, I can do this. And that's where his head was after meeting with his person.
No,
it's
that's
so
awesome.
Important that they're paired with a peer that has lived experience, because I don't know about you, but I mean, I really wouldn't trust someone. Like, I love my mom, but I don't want her trying to talk to me about my addiction. She doesn't understand.
Yeah.
But someone else who's been through it does. And that's so important. And I bet the reentry space, to have someone say, I was exactly where you were. I walked out of the prison. I did not know what I was going to do with my life. I did not know how to get an ID. Let me hold your hand and walk you through that. How impactful is that, to have that lived experience? Do you guys pair, Hamilton? I don't even know how it works, but do we pair the coaches, or does the prison pick the coaches out for their inmates?
No. They give us the information on the individual, and then we pair them with the right coach. And you brought up something when you talked about your mom, Liz, and I want to talk a little bit about this, about family. Most of these individuals that are getting out, family's not there, right? Would you say that's overwhelming?
Yes, they've burned bridges.
Yeah,
they've just or they just never were there in their lives. Like,
Yeah.
you know, foster care through their whole entire, you know, adolescence. And
Well, and a lot of times, Matt, it's education. Like, listen, I could have easily ended up in jail and prison when I did end up in jail, but it wasn't yours. It was the Maricopa County Jail for a night, which was a lot of fun. I did have the green bologna and the pink pajamas, Matt. It was a lot of fun. But you know, my wife hated me. I mean, she didn't hate me, but she didn't love me because she didn't understand what I was dealing with. And what we found is a lot of times, if you can get the family engaged and get them educated on what's going on, they have a much better understanding and they're much more willing to try to bridge that gap and bring the family back together. And I think you guys know one of the things that we do is, as we're working with someone that's getting out, we are always trying to engage the family to bring them back together. I don't know if you know that or not, but that's a huge part of what we do.
That, and that is so cool. But I would add too,
and that's what separates you. But I think it's more important for everybody to understand that it's not the lived experience that gives them chills. They feel the kindness and the love. And really, whether you've got lived experience or not, that's what they want. That's what the spirit needs. Is this connectivity, a human connection with someone who knows that they're getting out of jail and they still want to talk to them. They still want to help them. And it's been years for some of them to have that feeling. Now in their tool belt, that lived experience comes in for the accountability. Hey, I'm telling you right now, I know what you're about to do. I know why you're about to do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
That is what's amazing about Youturn. And people also need to know that's what sets Youturn Health apart from every other navigator out there. Because that's how I view them, as a navigator. The family connection, the attempt. People can say all they want. Oh, yeah, we'll help them get connected to their family. No, it's literally they do make every attempt to connect them with the best support network, which is their family.
Yeah, and Matt, you're right, and I liked what you said about the way we care for people, but you know, it's the lived. I mean, the reason the lived experience is so important because those people got out and they didn't have it, and so they want to treat people the way they wanted to be treated. Teresa, you were going to try to say something.
Yeah, so I want to talk about the family support services that you all offer because, like I said, I think these are critical. And one of the things that I found interesting, so I viewed almost all of the family support videos. And one, they were short, they were easy to understand, they were engaging. But what I found unique to these videos is that they give the family members permission to not set boundaries or set boundaries, but they have to be consistent with what they're doing. And that takes a lot of blame away too. And so I thought the family videos were very well done. It helped understand addiction and mental health more, even for somebody like me who's worked in the justice system for years, and has worked with mental health, substance use disorders, for a significant period of time. It helped me come to the realization that, hey, you know, when somebody's struggling with addiction, it's not always the family's fault, right? And there's things that they can do to be proactive and be more involved in their recovery. So I just thought they were great, and I loved the way that it tracked completion of the videos. It was like encouraging to get through them to see your progress as you went along. So I thought y'all did a really wonderful job with the family support videos.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Good to hear.
Thank you. Yvonne, anything? You've been quiet. Anything you want to add?
No, I definitely see a difference when they get peer support because they're able to speak to someone else versus coming to me, not feeling judged. And I see the difference now. They're more open. They see our faces and they're willing to talk and let us know, you know, what they need, what's going on. But I've seen a difference.
We love it. So I want to bring up one last thing. Overdose deaths. I'm assuming you guys see this tremendously. One of the things that I always talk about is now we've started spending all this time and energy to put people on medication assisted treatment while they're in the jail. But then we let them out and we basically say, good luck. And I think the statistics show in the first 2 days of release, that's the highest percentage chance for an overdose. And I always say it's because, I've been on Suboxone for 6 months and I come out, and as Sarah said, I got to get my driver's license. I got to figure out how to not have my wife pissed at me. I've got to get employment. Oh, by the way, I'm supposed to take my medication. And that becomes the last thing that they do. And so what we believe is that the most important thing we got to do is keep them on that medicine so they're safe and they're not going to go out and overdose and die. What are your guys' thoughts around that?
Well, we're actually preparing to start administering Sublocade.
I love it.
Through Endeavor.
Yeah.
That's a game changer because that's a once a month shot.
Yeah.
And it will definitely give us a little bit more confidence. You look at some, and you hate throwing other counties, but there's a county in California that when they release an inmate, they give them a voucher or this coin as they're leaving, and they get $25. Every inmate, every person released. The coin is for the Narcan dispensary machine outside of the sheriff's office. They put that in there so they can get their Narcan, and then because they know they're going to take that $25 and go grab some fentanyl or something like that.
Yep.
Like that is not the answer. The answer lies in the walls that they just left. And if I hate when people say, well, it's unfair that we're the new mental health hospital or we're the new sobriety house jails. Well, like it or not, that's what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is, right?
It is what it is. And if you don't accept it, you're in the wrong business, or you're just going to continually have overdose deaths within 24 to 48 hours after they're released from jail. So really that Sublocade is what's really going to be the game changer for us.
Yeah, I love that.
Can you tell us what that is?
So essentially it's the equivalent of a Suboxone or something like that. It's not methadone, but it's something that lasts for 30 days.
Okay.
It's and it's an additional 30 days. But what it does is it affects your receptors in your brain that don't allow you to get high or feel the high. There's no way you can get high. It's not going to allow. I don't know what the chemical is in your brain. What is it, Hamilton?
It's basically what it does is it's a synthetic opioid. So, and this is really important that Matt's bringing this up, because a lot of times what will happen is, let's say I'm a heroin addict, or let's say I'm on Percocet, and I go and I then can go to a doctor and I can get on Suboxone. Well, my family will go Google what is Suboxone, and it says it's a synthetic opioid, and they say, well, you can't take that. And that's bullshit. You have to take it. But what Matt's talking about is Sublocade is a once a month injection that makes you feel like you've been on Suboxone the entire time. And it's game changing. And you don't have the what's the word I'm looking for, Matt, when the people are taking the Suboxone and wiping it out of their mouth and then
there's none of this cheeking medication. Yeah. There's none of this that they do while they're in custody. It's an injectable, but the great thing about it is it allows them to return to the feeling of sobriety. Like, oh my God, like, and they're not having this craving. It is the game changer for facilities and for addiction recovery.
Right. And I'll tell you,
I'm sorry, Hamilton. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say the most important thing is it takes away the withdrawal symptoms. That, like, most people don't realize this, and I've lived through this, and so I can speak somewhat intelligently about this. When I was on those drugs, the reason it wasn't that I was getting high and I was having the greatest time in the world and this and that. I was actually taking them for pain. If I didn't take them, I got violently sick. And that's why most people stay on these drugs, because the withdrawals are so horrible. Suboxone allows you, or Sublocade allows you not to feel those withdrawals. Yep. And so what Matt and the team are doing is right before I leave, they'll give me my last shot, and that'll last me 30 days, which allows us 30 days to get them somewhere to get their next shot. That's awesome. The beauty of this.
Yeah. Do they have to be, when you go into prison and you are addicted to, say, opioids or something, they give you this so that you don't go through severe detox. Is that right? And
you still have to go through this process. You have to determine whether you can take it. Right. So there's like this week length of time in which we're trying to determine if your body isn't going to reject it.
Gotcha. Do you give it when they leave? Is that something they get to choose or not? Or is it?
It's all up to choice. Like
it is.
Everybody has their free agency, you know.
Okay.
Now, if it's court ordered, which we haven't had that issue yet, but that's a totally different thing when, you know, you have a court order for them to have it. But for everybody else, and, you know, Hamilton's a perfect example of there's a time and a season in which your life is able to grow and improve and get better. And many times parents think that they're the instrument of change. Family members think they're the instrument of change. And that's where the frustration happens. When you realize that God will place people in their lives that will be the instrument of change, then all there is left to do is love and support. So really the onus is on the parents and the family members to realize, maybe I'm not the person that's going to affect the change.
Right.
And so when they're in jail, they're now going to be associated with Sarah, Yvonne, Teresa, myself. Those are the instruments of change that families pray about. Please, please send someone in my child's life. Please send someone in my husband's life. Because when Hamilton was struggling, that was the prayer of his parents, of his wife. I mean, those are big things.
Yeah.
And that's why we take this job so seriously. We know the value of what we're doing. We know it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well,
have y'all, as empathetic and as wonderful and as kind and as invested as you guys are, have you had instances where people do not want to leave? I mean, seriously, I'm asking that as serious as I can.
You know, there always is. And a lot of it is fear-based. Mm-hmm. Like they're just afraid of just going into Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
The same thing over and over. Or, you know, we have illegals that have been arrested and illegal immigrants, and they know that they don't know what's waiting for them on the outside. There was one time where we had one of our staff assaulted in the intake while he was being released because he did not want to go out.
Oh my God.
And he knew the only way he could stay in is if he assaulted a staff member.
Whew. Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you to all of you. Very, very impressed with you can just tell how much you love helping these people, and they're not just inmates to you. They're real human beings. And if that's the way we can all look at them, and addiction and across the board, prisoners and, criminals of all kinds are just human beings making bad mistakes. And it's all because of their history or whatever their trauma is or whatever. Before we hang up, first, Hamilton, do you have any other questions? And then secondly, when we do hang up, if you guys would just hang on for a minute before pressing end, I'd appreciate it. Ham?
Yeah, no, I just want to say, Matt, I consider you a friend, and Sarah, Yvonne, Teresa, you guys are awesome. I'm so proud of the work that we're doing together. really not only changing the face of behavioral health, but changing the face of reentry. And you guys are definitely leading the way. So keep it up. And thanks for everything you guys do.
And we need to get some PR for Chief. You know him. We need to get some news in there, getting you lifted up for all the good you're doing. You need to be recognized.
His boss is the king of PR, right? Yeah.
Trust me. I like my island of tranquility at times because he throws me in the depths of social media very often. So.
Oh my gosh. Well, check out, what is it called? Behind the Bars?
Behind the Bars.
Yeah, I had to turn it off. There was a violence. I was like, what the heck am I watching? Hamilton, I was trying to do a little due diligence on the Chief here. And
I've seen it. Yeah, it's awesome.
We love our staff. I love my staff. I've got the best staff on the planet.
Well,
you guys are awesome.
We can see that.
Well, thank you guys for everything, and let's keep in touch and keep doing great work together.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, everybody, and show up next week for another episode of You Learn, You Turn.